trade deadline happened, Kevin Durant obviously coming over to Phoenix, making Phoenix, Denver, and a lot of teams kind of at that West top hierarchy, because no one is really the top this year. So everyone's the top almost, if that makes sense.
I love that.
Because there is no number one. So there's a bunch of 2A, 2B, 2C, 2, and there's just a bunch of guys vying for first that are all kind of tied for what should really be second in a division full of, that all seem to be lacking one piece. Phoenix getting Durant seemed to be that final piece on one team where it was like they're not lacking anything.
Yeah,
they might have gave up a bit of depth, bench depth with Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges and the guys that gave up to get Durant. But it's Ja had a team there that if Steven Adams came back and was healthy, the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant looked like they had as much opportunity as anybody else to take that number one spot and to take the West and go into those finals against whoever it ends up being out of the East, Philly, Boston, or Milwaukee. But he's doing this other LARPing.
Right, well, I don't know why.
And fucking Desmond Bain and Jaren Jackson Jr. and all these other guys in the process.
Right, it's more than just him in the process that he's kind of screwing over, because you doing that as being kind of like the star player, you are screwing everybody else.
He deleted all his social media.
I heard about that.
Right. I don't know what that means, because you can just deactivate stuff and then just turn it back on.
That's true. Did he deactivate it, or did he actually delete it?
He should deactivate the behavior. He shouldn't worry about the actual. Right. Well, those people around him should be protecting him.
Right, but there's also.
Who are the people that would get around someone who makes $10 or $20 million a year and they wouldn't be like, protect him at all costs. Don't take him into situations that are stupid. Don't allow morons around him to influence him.
He obviously has some sort of outside influence.
Oh, clearly.
Right. So
you're not the one black sheep who's just trying to act like that around a bunch of other people who've got their head on straight.
Right. I wonder if I don't know, maybe trying to show off to somebody. Maybe
again, you shouldn't have ops. You shouldn't have ops in a city you're not even from.
You're playing pro ball. You should just stick to pro ball.
You're playing pro ball at the top echelon of pro ball.
Right. Think about the top echelon. How are the
No, wait. Oh. So no. So like, we didn't really talk about Durant. So let's just talk about this injury now. So obviously, like I was saying, Phoenix, it was supposed to be a wrap now. Phoenix was supposed to kind of skyrocket in the West to number one. Durant obviously was that missing piece. Gave up a lot, like I said, to the Nets, who were actually playing a lot better than I thought they were going to be playing with a lot of these utility pieces. They don't really have a star, but every night it seems like a guy steps out and plays well. But that's neither here nor there at the moment. But the Suns, they looked like they had the guy. They brought in Durant. This was going to be the answer. Obviously, Devin Booker and Ayton and Paul and everybody. They got rid of the Crowder situation where Crowder was sitting out all year. It looked like, okay, boom, we got this on lock now. We're back to these Phoenix Suns of a couple of years ago, if not better, even though Chris Paul has regressed slightly. And we're going to make a push in a Western Conference that this year is not near as deep. Like I said, a lot of parity at the top, a lot of 2A, 2B, 2C kind of stuff. And Durant slipped on a toothpick or some shit in the first game home, because he went 3-0 on the road. First game home for Phoenix, which was a game everybody was really anticipating. I would imagine the fans were probably. And in the opening thing, he went for a layup and rolled an ankle and went down in 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe. Durant's been hurt lots, man. Since he blew that Achilles out a few years ago, Durant has been out lots. That Phoenix team now looks like, again, the West is up. And Durant, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing for a career? How are we gonna start to ratify these injury situations that seem to crop up every 15 games when you don't even play every night as it is? Like, you're only 34, 35 years old. Like, I'm not sure if Phoenix maybe didn't overpay, front-loaded to try to get, and I'm sure they did, because they're trying to utilize the very last years of Chris Paul's utility, where Chris Paul is actually someone who, while he doesn't give you the points, he can still give you adequate amount of minutes, and his basketball IQ, his acumen on the court, his ability to make other people look better and to spread the court out is phenomenal. So Paul still has a lot of utility, but it's a very diminishing window of time, because the man's 38 years old, second oldest guy in the league or whatever, behind LeBron. So I mean, Chris is running out of time. So they might in the long run regret giving up Mikal Bridges and stuff, because Bridges looks crazy in Brooklyn. I'm not sure about this. Durant out now. Fucking Phoenix, man, looks like I thought for sure it was a wrap now. You saw Luka.
There was no banana peel in the court. It wasn't sabotage.
Dude, I've seen it from like 20 angles.
Shoes didn't blow up.
He totally he planted the foot. It even looked like it was flush, and it just like rolled off the toe and totally just like hyperextended underneath itself.
Bizarro.
Like, it was almost like the tendons like so overstretched that like it just, I'm not a doctor, but it looked terrible. It looked terrible because Kevin Durant makes 40-some million a year. And you just gave up a bounty to bring this man in, to be the playoff difference maker. But granted, KD has a pretty good reputation of not really needing a lot of games with guys to jive with guys on the court. KD's a phenomenal basketball mind himself. Forget Chris Paul. So KD obviously his 3 games he did play with Phoenix, all road games. I mean, those 3 games, he looked ridiculous. He looked like KD of forever, the KD that's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, the KD that's going to go down as a top 10 shooter of all time, the KD that everybody knows and loves. But the health thing is so concerning.
Right, no, that is. And with him being out, how is that going to stand their place in the Western Conference?
Well, they're not going to be out of the. They're still probably going to finish 3rd or 4th, and he's going to be back by the playoffs. But I just don't think that, man, I don't think that in the long run, this Phoenix situation was probably the right move. I think they're going to miss Cam Johnson. I think they're going to miss Mikal Bridges. I think they're going to miss a lot of what they gave up to bring in Kevin Durant, where Durant really just looks so fragile. And it's such a shame to watch because,
is it noticeably he looks fragile?
He's just hurt 3 years in a row since he missed that entire season with the Achilles pop. He blew that Achilles in the playoffs and missed the entire next year, and then every year after that he's played 30, 40, 50 games. He hasn't put up whole seasons, not even close. So I know he takes a couple of games off, and rightfully so. When you've played to that extent, other guys got to get in, other guys got to get some minutes. You're an older veteran. They're trying not to put a lot of wear and tear on you in every different game. You don't need to always be out there in fucking December, especially if your team's playing well and you take a night off here and there. But when it's injury related habitually, it's way different. And you wish it wasn't like that because you're starting to see with LeBron, but LeBron's got 4 years on KD.
Yeah, he's got much more time in, right? Much more wear and tear over the 4 years.
And played a much more physical style of basketball, period. Not throwing shade at Durant for fucking how Durant played, but Durant's a shooter, right? Durant found his space, bigger than everybody, got crazy touch, maybe the best touch anybody's ever had. For a guy who looks kind of gangly, he doesn't look like a guy who really box you out in the fucking paint or anything, right? Even though he can, he's very basketball talented, but he's kind of long. He's a Slim Reaper. He's long and gangly.
I like that name.
But he's ice cold. He's got a shot that's just ridiculous. But LeBron is broad, so LeBron has even more miles on him than LeBron ain't twisting those shit in pregame, falling down.
No,
I don't know. Phoenix. It's a bad look.
So let's talk about the Western Conference here. How are the Nuggets doing?
You want to talk about the Nuggets are in first, aren't they? Nuggets are in first, man. Fucking Nuggets lost. Did they lose? Was that last night? They lost to some bummy ass team last night. I think it was last night. Remember
Rockets?
Remember last week we were Michael Porter Jr. We were talking about the Nuggets last week, and I could not bring up this guy's name for the life of me. And I was like, it's some dude from the Nuggets, and I could not think of what his name was. Michael Porter Jr. But that's neither here nor there. Nuggets are good, man. The Western Conference is wide open, and a team that takes that next step, which the Nuggets are very capable of. Because obviously they've got 2-time defending MVP Nikola Jokic, right? And they've got, like I said, Michael Porter Jr. They've got, I knew I was talking about it. Right, and they've got Jamal Murray. So, if Murray can stay healthy, which he couldn't stay healthy last year, he's done a much better job this year. I think they have as good of an opportunity in the West as anybody to come out of it. I don't know what they're going to be like when things get into deep waters. Like, I'm not sure what their playoff acumen or pressure IQ looks like, because I think that does matter. I think a lot of people don't give that the credit that it really deserves. The, like, having been there before and overcome ridiculous odds, or have been in conference finals or finals where you were up by a game or two games and losing, and what those experiences put on you compared to what they benefit you if you never had it. Because I think if you've never been there, while you're still a bit of a virgin in that case, you don't have the scars of failed triumphs in years past. You don't have those life experiences to know how to navigate those type of waters. So Denver doesn't have that. Denver's been to the playoffs, but they find a way to find themselves out of the playoffs. Even though they got an MVP going on maybe 3 years this year if he beats fucking Embiid. They're first. There's that. That's nice. Home court throughout the playoffs is nice, but do something with it. You're going to have to do something with it.
You got the opportunity.
But they've had it now a couple of years, right? And stay healthy. You still have 14, 15 more games in the season, 14 more games probably for Denver. And like I said, they just choked a game away last night, like a bullshit game. They never should have choked away against like some non-playoff Eastern team. I want to say it's like Orlando. I could be wrong, but it was not impressive. It was not something when I looked at the box score before I was going to bed where I was like, son of a bitch, look at that. It was like, oh, that's reality for you. How's that for reality? You're number one in the West, losing to some like non-playoff team. So yeah, Denver needs to.
Do you think the possibly the Kings could take the number one spot from the Nuggets?
Kings aren't going to take the number one, so I'm actually pretty surprised the Kings are in number two.
Yeah,
the Kings are amazing. Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes, and I mean, like, they look a lot better than I think anybody expected they could. Like, a lot, like we talked about this once already. Like, I don't have a lot of faith in the long run in the playoffs because the lack of experience. I wonder how much, once you butt up against a team that has it, how they might be able to drag you into deep waters you're not used to playing. Because series against veteran teams that have been there before, those teams know that there's like a different kind of playoff basketball that you can like get away with, where games get a little more physical, they get a little more snug, they get a little more, there's a little more rawness to them rather than the outright shooting affair that you see in the regular season. And I think if you've never been there before and don't understand the psychology of it, you might not. And I'm going to have to, I guess, use this because I've used this now twice to defend a position on Denver now and Sacramento. I'm going to have to use this if we talk about the Clippers in my own defense, which shows my own bias. But that's neither here nor there. I hate the Clippers, but I'm going to have to use this because I can't be a liar. So anyways, yeah, Sacramento, they're good. I don't think anybody thought they were going to be this good. I don't think the experience is going to fucking amount to them getting past. They might make it through the first round, losing the second. They're not going to the conference finals.
They're not going to
they just don't have. They don't have the. Maybe next year, if they can keep this up, if they're the team that takes the step. Let's say De'Aaron Fox goes from a guy who was potentially the one that was on his way out of Sacramento to not just a star this year, like an all-star caliber star, but a superstar next year. Because he's only like 23 years old. De'Aaron Fox is still fucking young. Let's say he takes that giant leap. Then maybe Sabonis. Still, there's not a lot of depth there. They got a long way to go. Sacramento has a long way to go. Second is impressive. I don't think pegged them how to make the playoffs this year. So second, that's impressive.
That's quite impressive.
I like Sacramento. I like the way they play. They play good team basketball. They're smart. They utilize what they've got as strengths, and they're benefiting from it. They're listening to their coach clearly, and they're all playing with their head in the game, because it's the continuity that would bring a team that was a non-playoff team for the longest drought in the history of the NBA, and that's continuing on as of right now. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs now, but they're going to break that streak of that playoff drought. It's not because they were good from last year. It's because these guys have really clearly bought into a system and play well together, and they're clearly accentuating the positives in Sacramento.
I don't remember. You might know this. How long did they say Jaw was going to be out for? Because he left, right, for a bit.
4 more games, I think. 3 more games. This is Saturday, so 4 more games.
How do you think that's going to hurt the Grizzlies' standings, huh?
I mean, you put a lot on Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. to come out and be the guys who can hold everything down.
It's 4 games, so 4 games, right? Four
it's a lot. Games, it's right? A lot when you're making a push for, the top of the conference in a year when the conference isn't that deep, and you were the team that probably could have. I don't know if you really have the size you want, like the skill and the size, but you definitely have the playmakers and the defense, because Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the best defensive players in the league. And Bane is a big boy who's strong on the ball and can drain that thing. And I mean, Bane's a beast, man. Bane is one of my favorite basketball players. Super underrated because Jaw fucking flies through the air. Bane does a lot more in the nitty gritty areas of the court where you're really impressed with the basketball. Where you're like, if you can keep that up for a career, don't get spoiled by the money or the fame.
You're saying he's like more like a muscle, you're kind of saying?
He's just he's aggressive. Yeah, okay. He's an aggressive, like Isaiah Thomas was an aggressive basketball player. He's a very aggressive basketball player. Like he just is looking, whereas Jaw, it's almost effortless. You know what I mean? When you watch a Jaw, it looks kind of effortless, even though his peers are of equal talent to him. He's got these innate physical characteristics, these qualities, especially the jumping ability, to make it look somewhat effortless sometimes, whereas Bane looks like a guy working people. And that's kind of a nice quality to see in someone who you can like really see, like they want that son of a bitch bad. Like, I don't know if they're playing for like the big boy contract or if they're playing for the W, but if they're playing for the W, that's the guy you want on your team for real. Because you don't know if the big boy contract the first time you get it. But as of right now, Bane's one of my favorite players in the league. That draft class, that Bane, Halliburton, Ball, Edwards draft class is crazy good.
Strong.
Crazy good. Coro's starting to play well in Cleveland. Wiseman looks like he's found a spot in Detroit. That draft is not half bad.
How are the Suns doing in their standings? Do you think they can progress further up the leaderboard?
No, because now with Durant out, I think that there's not a space here. Doing these rookies from entire seasons becomes quite cumbersome. So no, I don't think fucking with Durant out that they have any opportunity whatsoever. I think that's a pipe dream, absolutely, for Phoenix to move from where they are, because they're not going to want to put more hours on the wheels of Ayton and Paul and Booker going into the playoffs, because God forbid they get there and one of those guys get hurt, because they've been hurt all year too, or Durant isn't back yet, even though they projected Durant to be back. So, I mean, you can encounter one of two of those issues. You're not going to want to put any more hours, because the fact of the matter is if Phoenix goes into the playoffs in 3rd or 4th or 5th, but they're healthy, there's probably nobody in the West that's better than them still. So who gives a shit if you end up in the conference finals and Denver has home court advantage in the first 2 games? Like, split it 1-1, bring it back home, go up 3-1, just beat them. Like, I mean, that's, if you can stay healthy with KD and Booker and Ayton and Paul, you're going to do just fine. If you're not healthy, it's not going to matter, because you're just going to be an also-ran in that conference, because you need all those guys. Paul's maybe the guy you could lose, which, I mean, that's not, like I was saying, Paul is still very useful, super useful, but at 38 years old, 39 maybe, Chris Paul's old, second oldest guy in the league. Yeah. But Chris Paul's, he's a gangster, bro. Not that John Morant type gangster either. Like, the real IG basketball gangster.
That's a good title to have.
So Chris Paul is elite, and if he's healthy, if they're all healthy, Phoenix could walk out of that conference. If they go into the first round, game 1, and everyone's good enough to go, when they're not hobbled, guys aren't missing games, and they can remain that way, I don't see anybody in the West beating them regardless. Finish 3rd, 6th, whatever. wherever they finish, second,
finish,
first.
yeah.
I don't think they're going to get a lot of wins here. Like I said, going into the end, because Durant's out, and I think they're going to still rest Booker because they know that if we're all healthy going into playoffs, we can compete with anybody. So
you don't think the Clippers have a chance for beating the Suns now to move up to the leaderboard?
I think they can beat them. No, I think they, because obviously Durant. So I think I think the Clip, and that this is where again I need to come to Jesus and have that thing where I said I wasn't going to be biased earlier when we were talking about Denver and we were talking about Sacramento. In that when I was saying Sacramento and Denver don't have the playoff experience, I hate the Clippers, and I was looking at this earlier today and thinking out like, I would never think the Clippers could do good in the NBA playoffs. Like they're always hurt. There's always something.
Yeah.
They don't have the depth. They got Westbrook now. It's all this bullshit. And then I think but you need the playoff experience. And who has more playoff experience than two-time MVP on two different teams? Kawhi Leonard. So if you actually need the playoff experience, if the Clippers are healthy, maybe the Clippers are a lot more dangerous than I was giving them credit for going into this conversation right now, actually. Because I never would have came to this Jesus moment had I not run down my thoughts on Denver and Sacramento's lack of playoff skills. And then to reflect on the fact that, Kawhi, if he's healthy, if he's rolling and he's healthy, who has more playoff fucking acumen than Kawhi Leonard? I mean, it's LeBron, it's Steph, it's other guys with lots of championships. But Kawhi, for a one-man show, has done tons. And he's got Paul George. If the Clippers are healthy, the Clippers are a viable option. So why not the Clippers? So I think in this conversation, I've completely flip-flopped on the Clippers, and I feel like now my crosstown rival, because I'm a Laker fan, my crosstown rival, the Los Angeles Clippers, if they're healthy, they might be able to make a run in the West. They might be able to. Kawhi's ridiculous.
They've got a chance.
But they've been so up and down. I'm not going to bet my money on it, but if they're there,
you think it's their time to seize the moment?
I think their fans have definitely thought that for a while. I think the fans have sat in some sort of fan purgatory for a period of time where they've been expecting this Clippers team, not just this time, but last time. Who was on the Clippers that played with Blake Griffin? Was it Chris Paul? I think it was Chris Paul. Right? So there's been so many times Clippers fans have been waiting for the other shoe to drop with a team that looks like it's superstars, and it never seems to pan out. But if we were going to discount Denver and Sacramento's, or I was going to discount Denver and Sacramento's, a lack of playoff experience in winning towards their probable ability to not make it to the finals, then I have to give it to the Clippers, because while they don't as a team have it, it's not like Kawhi Leonard is lacking in it. He definitely has it. So if Kawhi is rolling on all cylinders, I'd be silly to not assume Kawhi has a potential to maybe drag the Clippers to a conference finals and then maybe upset a team in a fashion that we weren't expecting, or a team that doesn't have the same experience that Kawhi does. So Clippers could maybe do anything. I'm not really keen on it. I'm not really keen on it. Don't mark me down as like fanboy of Clippers. Like, I don't want that title bestowed on me. Like, I don't like the Clippers. I'm a Lakers fan. The Clippers can absolutely just bite a dick. But in reality, if I'm being honest with you, healthy, Kawhi could do probably anything.
All right, so what's your take on the Mavericks? Their card was sweet. I love the floor Maverick.
Right, Maverick the movie too. The Mel Gibson, the card movie with
good.
What's her name? Helen Hunt.
It was, Helen Hunt. And what's another movie?
Excellent movie. Yeah. Maverick with Mel Gibson is an excellent movie.
He's that old guy. He's from the Rockford Files.
Right, James Garner. Yes,
that's right.
That is a fantastic movie. I'm a big proponent, a connoisseur of Maverick, of Mel Gibson movies, period. Mel Gibson was...
You're quite the Maverick yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. You're quite the stallion.
Ooh.
Right. I didn't want to be too forward, but I figured I might as well shoot my shot here live on the internet. Right. If it doesn't work, I'll just blow your head off.
Oh, damn. Live on the internet.
Right. Live on the internet. Right. Carol Captain's on rookie card and parallel.
Look at that.
So yeah, I would have thought the Mavericks, the Mel Gibson Mavericks, would have been better since bringing in Well, I mean, they lost Brunson, right, last year. Brunson's banged up now in New York, but I thought giving up what they gave up for Kyrie Irving with Luka having a season that was, trending towards being, I mean, at one point in time during the season, he was in the conversations for the MVP, back when Tatum was maybe the leading rumor getter back in the early part of the season for MVP voting. Then Luka was kind of in the second tier place, and then Luka kind of moved in because Embiid didn't really start the season too much for Philly. Then obviously Jokic, you start looking at his stats accumulated over the season. He doesn't do anything that's so phenomenal, but he finds a way to get to where he's number one in almost all these categories. So Luka was having a season where it looked like you had Kyrie Irving, who, when his head's in the game, is one of the best basketball players on the planet. It looked like that dynamic duo could have been, and now, is he even going to re-sign there? They're not any good. They got no chemistry. Like, they don't know I don't know if Jason Kidd maybe doesn't know what he's doing as the coach.
Do you think it might just be a coach thing, or do you think it's a chemistry between the team? I wonder.
It's difficult to say. It's such a small body of work.
I'm not in the locker room.
No, and there's such a small body of work. There just isn't a whole lot to take a look at where you can say, like, well, over the course of 80, but we don't have 80 games because Kyrie's contract's going to be up at the end of the season, and they're going to have to decide whether they give this guy a max deal or not. There's not some option which Kyrie's going to entertain beyond max deal.